Butterscotch shenanigans. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 78 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, I'm the typer of programming languages.
I'm Sam and I type vectors.
And today is December 20, 2016.
That was great.
That's Spanish.
Yeah.
Also warning, anything can happen on this show, including Spanish.
Yeah.
But also profanity.
and profanity in Spanish.
It might be that. So if you are easily offended or if you don't like, whatever, I don't know, get out of here.
Yeah. Just leave.
Yeah. Okay.
Skedaddle.
It's the podcast before Christmas.
And all through the
The
basement dwelling.
Which reminds me, our first order of news today
Okay.
is that Christmas is coming up.
So let's talk about what are you guys outraged about this year? What's, what about Christmas and
I
the
heard-
general holiday spirit has made you angry? Because that's what everybody likes to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a few ways you could hit it,
Yeah.
right? So so depending on just where you want to come at it from. So you could be
All the angles, man.
Yeah, you could be mad about people calling it Christmas. You could also be mad about people calling it just the holidays. Just like you could hit it from any angle.
What
right
if,
there.
can I be mad at both?
You could be mad at both and just generally upset about the commercialism of it.
yeah, that's a good
which
one,
is just a great overall outrage. Sort of
You could be
thing
mad
hit.
about the pine tree murder that happens.
Yep, there's a massive deforestation.
If you're not mad about that, you could be mad about the plastic trees, which are made of plastic.
Yep.
Bad for the environment, probably.
Yep, yeah, I got one of those because of my outrage about the real tree.
I got a real tree because of my outrage about the plastic trees.
Yeah.
I decorated it with red cups. But solo cups, though, not cups from Starbucks. So those ones are offensive.
That's true because they don't have. What do they or do they not have?
No, I
again?
think it's because they used to be.
So they're green this year.
Are they green this
They're
year?
green this year. But I mean, people are still outraged.
Are we outraged because it's green or because they used to be red?
No, I'm having such a hard time keeping track of what I'm mad about. This Christmas.
It's almost as if you can choose to be outraged about
literally
anything.
No, I think the world is actively out to get me.
Yep.
And that
He's right. He's
aggressive.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure this is really all about me, actually. Like that's when people make a cup red, it's because they want me to be upset.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
a bull.
it's actually it's very stressful to be the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Because
That's
so many
interesting,
things get directed at you.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get by.
You don't understand.
It's almost
You don't know what it's like.
It's almost as if, the underlying idea of a holiday in general, which is supposed to be, enjoying life for a brief moment.
but you understand.
It's
If
almost
you
as if
enjoy
that's
life, I
forgotten.
can't though.
Yeah, because your enjoyment brings everyone else just pain and misery.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost as
It's
if
a zero-sum game. I don't know if you knew this, but happiness is something that only one person can have.
Well, there's a
time.
finite amount of it, and you can pass it around.
It's sort of a hot potato of emotions. It just has to go. It goes around the room. It goes around the world.
it's almost as though when I hold that potato that
someone else is now starving to death.
Yeah, it's
of happiness.
starving of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I should just drop all the potatoes. Drop the potato.
Yeah.
This holiday,
Drop it like it's hot.
drop that potato like it's hot. Because otherwise someone might be offended about you holding the happiness potato.
Yeah, just do your best to not be happy. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
And
people talk about the
Don't
the
celebrate
story
anything.
of the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. As being this sort of tale of an old angry guy who just all he has is money.
I believe curmudgeon is the term.
He's a curmudgeon. All he has is money, and he has no happiness in his life. But really, it's the story of a hero, who was letting other people have the happiness, and he gets corrupted by these demon ghosts to suck up all the happiness in the world and keep other people. From
I think if I
experiencing
feel
joy.
because not
myself-
only does he have all the money, he also has all the happiness.
Yeah. So it's the tale of a rich man getting richer. That's what that is.
If I feel myself, over the next week or so while we're on break, and just basically feeling happiness, I think what I'll do is I'll get on Twitter.
Oh yeah, that'll help. That'll cut that shit real short.
And I'm gonna find, I'm gonna track those moments, and they'll be like, here's what people are angry about. Also, why don't you be angry about this? And I'm gonna say,
Just
you know what?
retweet that.
This
Just retweet
holiday,
it.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go full rage. I'm gonna be blast, put everybody on blast.
These holidays, remember how upset you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
And then I think just to sort of to put a cap on this, another sort of final strategy to use is before you get together with your family, make a list. Make a list of all the things that you are upset about.
Yeah.
Bring that to your family get together.
Make sure you're already upset when you get there.
Yeah. Make sure no one can escape from whatever you're bothered by.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You want to make sure they know.
Yeah. And also it's good to kind of treat it sort of like a yin yang situation. Make sure that the things that you're upset about are like that it's upsetting to other people, just that you're upset about those things. Right. So that when you go to the family gathering, you can just really just amp it up. Like just really take the whole thing to the max.
Yeah. Let your outrage be fuel for other people's outrage about your outrage.
Yeah. Your outrage be your guide.
Yeah. That's what it's about. That's just what that's what it's about.
It's about being angry.
Outrage and presence.
Red and green. Red is for angry. Green is for go. Go be angry this holiday season. That's what it's about.
Red is for rage and green is for go be mad about it. Yeah, how about Quadrupus 2?
Oh yeah,
let's talk about that.
Well, so it's we had some fun design ideas. We were talking last week. We haven't gotten to really dig in yet because we've been doing just studio stuff, hiring stuff, sales stuff for the holiday season. Just kind of getting everything, all of our ducks in a row before we flee for a little bit and take a little break. So what we did find though is we were just talking about we have this idea of loops that we talk about all the time. And we just started kind of spitballing on what we could do to make the Quadrupus experience something more in line with what we originally intended in the first place, but didn't have the skill to do or the timeline. And so I think the biggest decision that we've made that is important for people to understand and the implications of it is the level size. Let's talk about that. And what
assuming
impact,
we can do it.
Assuming we can do it.
Yeah.
What impact something as small as making the levels bigger?
As big.
As big.
What does that do?
I guess how much bigger? Because is it a small amount of biggerness?
No, it's like between 6 and 10 times.
Okay, so it's a big.
Yeah. So what this does is this means so in Quadrupus you can fall off the edge, which pushes you down to the next depth. If each depth is more broad and has a lot more content in it, then that means you're going to need to explore throughout that entire stage in order to find everything to get the most out of that level. Which means we can do larger jumps in power of enemies from level to level, which does mean that falling will be worse.
Correct.
Falling would have a consequence actually, because you just miss out on all that stuff. Yeah. There'll be all kinds of collectibles and resources and experience and weapons and whatever else you can find.
And it'll also allow us to essentially theme levels. On the back end with the procedural generation, what we can do is say, okay, you know what? This person's been playing essentially what we would call the vanilla level generation experience. Let's throw it in
mean
here.
the most delicious.
Experience.
Until you twist it with chocolate and then holy shit.
No thanks.
And cover it in chocolate again.
That's just fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
Put some mint on there.
But the idea is that we can essentially flavor some of these levels with boss chocolate chips, for example, or perhaps exploratory sprinkles. And make it such that the gameplay, instead of just having that homogenous feel that a lot of procedural generation games do, No Man's Sky, for example, just
not to name names, but that's a big one.
Instead of having everything feel the same and sort of the same cool, but the same, we would actually go for a slightly different experience depending on the level the person's on. So you might go from one where it's very combat focused because there's just like maybe a bunch of generators pumping out enemies, sort of gauntlet style,
to one where it's like nursery focused, where you raise a bunch of baby quadrupeds.
Yeah, and then another one where it's
like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
It's actually all about
just get in there,
managing your finances. Yeah, and you go on to the next level.
It's like the ones that's like EVE Online, where it's still about managing finances, but also there's nothing around you.
Yeah.
And you can't escape until you beat it, even though it's an MMO with no ending.
Right.
That's just one of the ideas.
Yeah.
Right? And also it's hard to fall to the next level because there's no gravity.
Yeah. So we like to throw out a lot of crazy ideas, and we don't like to,
and then actually throw them out. Sometimes.
Yeah,
literally
most of the time.
It's double throw technique.
But yeah, so I think the overall angle that we're trying to take with it is we want to hit all the stuff that made the original good,
which is basically combat.
The combat and the thing that we're happy about in the original one is the combat and some of the things like the mastery system. So having an achievement system that also has unlockable sort of decision points as a player of how you specialize your character. We feel like we didn't take that as far as we could have. And we also want to layer in all kinds of new fun things.
Oh, yeah. Also, we were significantly hampered by it being free to play.
It was free, so we had to think about how do we sell people crap in this game.
Yeah,
which we're not
Quadrupus
gonna
2 will
do.
not be free.
Nope.
So go ahead and get angry about that this holiday season. If
Yeah,
you
just
would
add that
like.
to your list. Bring that to your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just talk about
just
that.
explain how you want things, but you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, because, why should you?
Yeah, and then get all the gifts from your family. It's a perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to keep the details on lockdown.
Yep.
Because they change basically constantly.
Well,
Next week,
but
we'll
not
be
only that, though, we're also going to, every time we do provide a detail, we're going to do it in a bed of lies.
Mhm.
Yeah, that way
So
you won't
that
even know.
You won't know what's real and what isn't real because we don't either.
The
Yeah.
labyrinth of
Yeah.
truth.
And this way,
Yeah.
the lies will be so obvious that you just don't get to be angry.
But there will be
Orcs.
something that there will. We're making World of Warcraft.
Yeah. It's an MMO.
Yeah.
Everyone's asking for it, so here you go.
There it is. And speaking of MMOs, we're thinking of doing same screen multiplayer.
Yep.
With controllers.
Also, split screen multiplayer.
Truth or a lie?
Yeah.
Where you only see the other person's body.
No,
Where you
it's-
play as the face.
Yeah, you play as a one arm and one leg of one player and of
It's
the other
like
player.
Octodad,
Yeah,
but it's actually a brawler.
but you're playing it for two players at once. So you play half of the limbs of one player and half of the limbs of the other player, and then the other person playing has the other half of each.
Yeah,
character.
and it's also the case that you're not playing on your character. You're playing on somebody else's character somewhere else in the world, and you can't
Right,
even
you
see
can't
it.
even see it,
You don't
yeah.
even know
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's happening.
That's why I gotta make levels big so you don't fall off.
That's right. That's one of the other benefits. So yeah, we don't know what the fuck is happening with Quadrupus 2. We're working on it. I spent some time this weekend working on it. I did actually get though some double or multiplayer controller stuff.
Yeah,
4
that
players
is- that
actually.
is true.
So-
We Seth and I hopped in, and we were basically multi-boxing because the action controls were still bound to one person.
That was last week. I got that fixed.
You got that fixed? So
I was
if-
controlling Sam's attack. Actually, it was
Yeah.
kind of like what we just
So,
described.
so I was just walking around, and then if Seth dodged or attacked, then I had to
You just had to do it.
react appropriately.
Nice.
It's actually really fun.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work as a commercial product, but that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on with some questions.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Well, wait.
Have we covered all the news?
What do you talk about Coco's extreme coughing situation? Because this is incredible.
Yeah. Coco health update. Coco's our office dog.
Mm-hmm. She's a mutt of some
She's
sort.
a 40-pound mutt.
Also, is approximately has the velocity of a missile.
Yeah.
So she can
She's
go
very
real
fast.
fast for a long time.
Turbo dog.
Mhm.
She, because of her turbo tendencies, we have to take her to daycare pretty regularly, where she,
It's a kid's daycare though.
It's-
Should be
yeah.
clear. So
Yeah.
she can run around with toddlers.
Yeah.
yeah, she walks on her hind legs. Nobody can tell the difference.
Except she is taller than all of the
She's
toddlers.
taller than all the kids, which is weird.
Like, this is
Also,
a very
she's-
skinny, tall human.
With very,
Very
skinny
floppy
limbs.
ears. It's like a
Kind
dummy.
of T-Rex arm situation. But yeah, so she goes to daycare
Straight
a lot,
T-Rex.
so she can spend about 12 hours just sort of burning energy, which is almost enough.
I think the best way to put it is that you've never had to trim her fingernails because they literally burn off.
Yeah, we've had her,
circles.
we've had her
From friction.
for a year and a half now, and yeah, we've never clipped her nails. And actually, they're too short. It's like
Yeah.
they're dangerously short because
She's
her just general mode of operation is sort of like she's just standing over a sander. Like that's just how she's moving all the time. So she got the kennel cough or whatever from the daycare.
It's called kennel cough.
That's the shorthand for it.
It's basically dog cold.
It's a dog cold. And it's, it's not a big deal, but it does mean that she's been just meandering around the office for the past week, making these
Horrible.
horrible.
And she's not
Horrible
allowed. She's also not
hacking
allowed to go to
noises.
daycare. So she's
Yeah, she can't. She's got to be at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's been crazy because it's very hard to focus on things when there's a beast.
you'll be having a meeting or trying to talk about something, and all of a sudden, all of a sudden, you're back and it's like,
And then if you see her doing this, you're like how a normal person, if you're about to cough, like kind of your face gets a little weird, or you might like open your mouth a little bit if you're gonna sneeze. So she kind of does the same thing, but in dog mode.
but dogs have like very terrifying
Yeah.
fangs and
So-
teeth. And,
So she sort of like hunches over and then like pulls her lips back and opens her mouth. And so there's just this maw. And she's like, ah! and it just goes on
And
sometimes.
it's a
for
lot
few
of really
minutes.
vomitous noises. A lot
I
of the
thought
time.
I thought she was sick the first time I heard her. I was like, oh God, your dog
Yeah.
just vomited. She just coughed.
And the
It's
best
like-
part is immediately
it's like a cough.
afterwards, she just looks and she's like, "What?" Just very super,
Eye contact.
Like, what? I don't know what.
I didn't do anything.
Nothing happened. So she's getting better though. No,
Should
it's a
get
thing. But that's been our office experience for the past week.
It's incredible.
Been a little weird.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to questions. The questions come from podcast.bscotch.net. You can ask them with your Bscotch ID, which can earn you a sweet Coffee with Butterscotch avatar for the forums and your in-game picture avatar, whatever. And you can ask them without a Bscotch ID too if you want to be anonymous. But why would you do that? Well,
Yeah, really, we should just take out that option.
we really should.
Yeah.
All right, so first question comes from Arcarnix, who asks, what is each of your favorite pieces of work you did for Crashlands?
Well,
What
I didn't
does
do
this
any,
mean?
so I guess I don't get to answer.
Adam did stuff like
Adam made the save system.
That's
the
true.
cross-platform.
I guess that is a
system.
piece of work.
also
right?
made the story go.
It's also true.
And the
I feel
creator.
pretty good about that.
Adam's like an enabler. Except that
Yeah.
I have an addiction problem to making video games. And Adam's like, yeah, buddies, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Here's
do
$20.
it.
Just go do whatever you want. Do whatever you want with it. I don't know.
Go crazy, kids.
Yeah.
Favorite piece of work?
Mm.
From a programming perspective, I'm actually not super happy with most of what I did in Crashlands. And Sam, you could probably back me
What
up.
about
on
controllers?
this.
But what I like though, from what you did, was actually the last piece of the work with the fully adaptive controller versus touch versus mouse keyboard support thing.
That was pretty fun.
But also,
Yeah.
but it feels so good.
It's
and
it's
smooth.
something that always bothered me is playing a game where you have to open a menu to switch over your control scheme.
Yeah.
Right?
Why?
Yeah.
You
And
shouldn't
so
need to do that.
so I set it up so that as soon as it detects a controller input, the UI reconfigures itself, and you can watch the little things turn.
It's all
and
smooth.
move
It's
and-
like, wow.
yeah.
It's
And,
nice
and
thing.
somebody did
Wow.
comment on that in the Discord. They're like, "Wow, this is super smooth." So I feel good about
Worth
that.
it.
No, it's all worth it.
But I think in terms of
Thanks, Discord buddy.
Yeah.
in terms of overall, there's this kind of weird problem where I still feel like I'm learning a lot as a programmer.
Mhm.
And especially at the time of beginning Crashlands, I had been programming really for about 2.5 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I've been programming for 5 years.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot more, and the stuff that I coded at the beginning was
Garbage.
truly horrifying.
Mhm.
Well, and if you're actually embracing mastery of your craft, your best work is always in front of you, never behind you.
Whoa. Hashtag.
But that also
beep.
means that your worst work is what you just did.
No, those are the first
Oh,
thing.
it's the
you
first thing you
literally
did.
the first thing.
Yeah.
You did.
Uh,
It's garbage.
Yeah.
But everything gets increasingly bad, though, relatively speaking.
The further
As
back
move-
you go,
the further
as
back you
move
go,
forward.
I think
and the
my-
further forward you move in
Well, because you
time.
had the same experience with art, Sam, right?
Yeah.
Where at the
Oh, yeah.
end you had to deliberately
I
make
had to
your
stop
art.
making it better.
You had to make your art
By
worse
the time we got to the
fit,
tundra. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
fit the aesthetic.
The bosses let me go a little bit crazier because they're sort of like their own thing.
Yeah.
So they have a lot more detail and complexity like I've
Mhm.
been sort of trending toward. But yeah, I actually had to chill out a little bit toward the end, which is, it's fine. But when you're making
Well,
500,
you want to get better.
yeah,
right?
when you're
You
making
wanna improve.
500 new assets, that's the end of what you're doing. It's kind of a long time to be like, I'm not going to grow for a bit. Let me
Yeah.
just dial this in.
But the
Yeah.
thing that I learned as far as trying to sort of incorporate these things, I don't know if this applies to art, maybe, is I was reading this book called Clean Code. It's a fantastic book. And in this book, the author talks about this thing that he just calls the Boy Scout rule, which is, I guess the Boy Scouts have this thing when they go camping, when they go, you always clean up the campsite cleaner than it was when you first went,
Mhm.
right? So
Leave
if-
it better than you found it.
Yeah,
Pretty
so-
sure that's also like a
just a general
general
thing.
thing. Yeah.
And so I started adopting that with my code where I never did this before, right? So if I saw something that was shitty, I just throw an extra piece of shit on top of it, be like, there, that should fix that rest of that garbage.
House of
right?
Cards situation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And of course, that just makes it worse and worse and worse and less flexible. And so now I have 2 years of that in Crashlands, which is not a good scenario.
Yeah.
So
Well, do you have something your favorite piece though? This wasn't about how shitty you are.
well, no,
Seth.
I think I don't know if there's anything in Crashlands that I own.
I mean, none of us do.
Yeah,
my
I mean,
favorite,
it's such a collaborative thing.
my
I
favorite
can't-
thing that Adam did is actually Remerle turning into a squee
Oh, the
plant.
squee-
Because so I'd written that story and Adam was coming back and like doing a good editing pass and like adding a bunch of humor and just fixing stuff up and building other cool stuff into there. And then so I built it, tested it, and then went off and built some more story stuff and then came back and Adam was like, I finished this one. You want to try it? Played it. And Remerle turned into a squee plant. And I was like, what? Because I never even thought to do that. Because essentially,
Swap out an NPC.
actually, what you're doing is swapping out an NPC and putting a squee plant there.
And then
Like, they're
swap
actually
them back.
Yeah, they're two different things.
Yep.
And because the dialogue is locked, the character can't blow it up, which is important. And then you swap it back. And
'Cause otherwise that would be murder.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorite moments from actually the story development. Was just that one little piece.
Little squeak plant.
It sort of blew. It sort of opened up. And then we talked about the creator a bunch, but it sort of opened up my what I was thinking about what was possible with that.
Right.
If you start getting flexible with those tools, you could do a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Crashlands was the first time for lots of things for us.
Well, I think also like writing that huge story.
We'd never done that.
Never done that. So
Doing like a
I
pinch
actually
to
enjoyed
zoom
that.
map, having a procedurally generated open world,
I think
a quest system.
I do think my favorite overall piece of work, I guess, maybe not a small piece, but I think is actually the narrative stuff for the whole thing. Cause it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. And as far as like the closest to a 1-to-1 in terms of time spend, from a dev side, like if I get fast enough in the creator that if it takes me 4 hours to make story content, it's going to be equivalent to like 45 minutes to an hour of player time, which is crazy. That's you don't get that turnaround for literally anything.
Well,
All you
if you
gotta do
compare
is-
the rest of the game, like the full game with all of our time that went into it and how many total hours that is over 2.5 years. I don't even know what the hell that is, but even the most avid player we have, who's probably played for a couple hundred hours by now, has still put in a tiny drop compared to what we did to make that thing for them to go play.
Yeah.
So I think that's my favorite piece.
That's true.
All right, next question comes from Degeki, who asks, "What is the intended value add, lovely business term just for Seth, of this podcast for BS? Is it
Meta
working?
question.
Is it working? What do you want to see as value add? P.S. Thanks for the awesome, all of it, just all the awesome."
Thanks, wait.
So
So
the
it
game-
tells us
so-
how to pronounce it later, I think.
So just to
Degeki.
rephrase, this podcast question is, why does this podcast exist?
You know, that's like, why are we doing this, guys?
We've had
World's
this
just gonna-
discussion.
Yeah, I don't know.
The
Whatever.
world's just going to explode.
You know, we've never thought about it. And now that we have, we
God.
shouldn't be doing this. This is now the last podcast episode.
You know,
of
we should have
Butterscotch.
Patrick just put a pause, like a pew.
Just turn it off.
The TV turned off. We're done.
Yeah.
Way to go, Degeki. You
It's
ruined
just
it.
static.
So we've actually, when we first started the podcast,
What was the goal? What was the intent?
So the
I
intent is
remember.
basically we have this idea that there are sort of levels of involvement that our players can have with us as a studio. There's kind of the surface level stuff like downloading a free game and playing it for 30 seconds and then being like, fuck this, and
Or-
uninstalling
Yeah.
it.
Or just seeing the icon and then
Just seeing the
never
icon.
actually-
Yeah, that's sort of the briefest of interactions, and it doesn't turn into anything. Then there's the people who play the games and really enjoy them. But most of those people will play the game and then just kind of move on. Right. And then there's the people who will play it and really get into it and do stuff like, buy Crashlands on Google Play and Steam and sync their save up and play through on 3 different difficulty levels. And that's a high level involvement with one game, but not necessarily with the studio, right? And then there's people who buy multiple games or play multiple games, and they're going further down into the funnel, right? So there's fewer and fewer people at each level. And then at the bottom of the funnel is people who actually actively go out and find stuff from our studio, like our talks, our blog posts, our articles. And then at the very bottom of the funnel is this podcast.
It's, we talk about leverage a lot. Probably,
This is a low leverage activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, we know that the people who are listening to this podcast are interested in what we're doing as a studio. Like they care, and we care about them.
Otherwise, they absolutely would not be listening to this.
Yeah.
podcast.
why?
Because it's also the case that, if you look at our SoundCloud page or whatever, you'll see that the number of listens is pretty consistent across episodes. So it's usually the same people coming back, subscribing and listening week after week. And we think that these people are important to us as a studio.
We've talked about
So-
this idea before. There's 2 things. So one is it also has to do with another question, which is why we would ever put our heads on the splash screen. And I think this goes back to that as well, because we understand that a lot of the reality nowadays with digital production work and the way people consume their media now is that the distance between you as a player, as a consumer of a thing, and the person who made it is not just vast, because it is, but is also completely mediated by most of these sort of weird digital channels like Twitter, Facebook, whatever else.
And also it's a strict business relationship.
Right. And so it's very easy to view the people who make the stuff for you as basically as strictly as business or corporate entities.
And that's true a lot of the time because especially with video games being the huge industry they are today and the difficulty of that industry, then most video game studios don't survive. Those that do tend to become more and more corporate and then buy each other, right? Until you have
Activision.
But you just have lots of you just have lots of really big companies with lots of people where any given person in that institution doesn't really feel like a core part of that institution. And so even if you do talk to them one-on-one, they don't really represent the wholeness of the entity of the studio.
Yeah, so a big part of it is actually just providing a place for, I guess, what we sort of internally refer to as like a high touch sort of place where we get to directly talk to people and you get to understand.
We get to touch you in the brain.
just put our fingers into your ears.
Yeah, and I think because all of us enjoy that a lot when it comes to the creators that we know and really care about. So Olin Rogers is actually, we've used him as a good reference point for a number of these things. One of my favorite things that he's a YouTuber, makes these hilarious videos, but then he also just has these vlogs he does where he just tells a story about a thing that happened to him. And it's just him and the camera like in a bedroom. And it is some of the funniest shit you will ever see in your life. And on top of that, the dude just loves the fact that he gets to make stuff for people. And we find ourselves in the same position, but it's being a game maker feels like it puts us in a much more weird sort of almost antagonistic relationship on like at the outset.
Well, there's a layer between us and the people who are interacting with us, right? Which is the game, right? If you're making a YouTube video, it's you being recorded and then people are looking at you on the video. For us, it's we make a thing, people play that thing, and there's just this abstracted mediation that happens there. So we don't get that.
Yeah, and like one of the things we talked about actually during the summer was something inspired by Olin Rogers. He did a pizza tour called Have a Slice With Me.
Something like that, yeah.
Where you got a van. They just rented a van. So basically ran the budget numbers, rented a van, and then would show up at a few different places and rented out a little room and then sold apparel to sort of like make ends meet and then had a pizza party. So all of his fans from all the places would just show up and they just hang out for like
12 hours.
12 hours.
Right.
And it's like this exhausting, crazy thing. But that's sort of, we've talked about this before, but like that sort of thing where you actually get to meet the people and be a person with them is not a thing you get to do if you're mediated by the thing you make, right? So by games or by whatever else.
And I think it was especially cool seeing particularly that event just because he's got a video up about this. I think it's Share a Slice With Me or whatever. And he's at the end of it, he's so overwhelmed by just how many people actually showed up to this thing. Like he's basically weeping at the end of it, because he just gives a shit. Yeah. Right. You know, he cares about the people who watch his stuff. And
so I guess to answer your question briefly, it's because we give shit about you, Jackie.
Yeah. Deal with it.
All right. Next question comes from our Cardex again. Last night I discovered that you can hold down the dodge button in Quadrupus Rampage. It made the game twice as fun after I was done feeling like an idiot. This is a good lesson.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about.
It does make one wonder.
Tutorials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The fact that you shouldn't feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know that you can hold the dodge button. And it's in retrospect, it's obvious because all you do is just not take your thumb off of it. You're still touching it,
it's
right?
not like an arcane.
Yeah, there's not kind of like a crazy combination of things.
Here's another tip for Crashlands. You don't have to spam click anything.
Yeah, you only need to tap things one time. You can just tap it
once. Just so everybody listening knows that.
Yeah,
just relax.
just relax.
Take it down a notch.
It's not League of Legends.
Yeah,
you know, just take a chill, pal. So this is a failure on our part to create what I would consider to be a reasonable tutorial in Quadrupus, because there's this legendary story of Mario, the original Mario game, and how it has no tutorial, right? Instead, the levels are constructed in such a way to force the player to be exposed to certain aspects of the game.
Almost as if you can teach the game using
gameplay.
Game.
Instead of blacking out the whole screen and then putting a hand on screen and showing it, poking the thing you want the player to do.
This is also true in games like the old original Half-Life and stuff, right? Where you go through boot camp first.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
You just walk in a room and they're just like, there's a pipe in the way. And the only option is to actually pay attention to what they the narrator, like the boot camp instructor is saying, and they're like, you have to crouch to get under that thing. And on the screen it says like left control or crouch, right? So you do all the things that you could do in the game.
Or Half-Life 2, pick up that can.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay, now you can pick things up. Right?
Cool.
Because that was the first game that had, physics where you could pick shit up.
And then you get beaten. Because
then if you don't pick up a can, you get beaten because it's a tutorial.
Yeah.
You got to learn.
Keep learning.
Yeah, and so this was our second legit game that we made. We were on a time crunch. Excuses. I'm gonna just throw a bunch of there's just have some general excuses.
Yeah.
And so we didn't take the time to make a good tutorial. And what we should have done was made a level that you had to
shoot over a big
across a gap, right? Because there would have been no enemies on the level.
You do two of them, so you do a short one first, where you're like, you can dodge to jump across gaps, and then do a big one. Be like, also, you can just
now go across this gap, right? It's in a lot of games they'll do. Oh, you can jump across a gap, and then you can run and jump, or you can double jump, right? And of course, you can't proceed in the level until you do that thing. Super Meat Boy does this, right? Like the wall slides and wall jumps and stuff. And in Quadrupus, you can go and you can watch videos of people playing it.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's crazy because it's not crazy. It's exactly what you'd expect, which is we just threw tutorial text on the screen, like hold the ink button or hold this black button to dodge. Meanwhile, we throw 20 enemies at you. And you're just
also attend to all these things that are murdering you.
Yeah. And so what you'll find is if you watch YouTube videos of people playing Quadrupus for the first time, is they won't even know that text is there.
And it's big.
Sometimes for 15 minutes. And it's right there in the middle of the
blindness.
Yeah, because they're trying to fight the enemies, right? So they're looking through the text and seeing all the shit that's trying to kill them. So that was just a lesson in tutorials.
Well, this is an interesting thing because the opening, so Crashlands actually has a pretty good built-in tutorial. Which took a long time to hone. That opening ship sequence, like I don't think anybody understands.
It was play tested extensively,
unbelievably complicated.
We argued about it constantly.
Yeah, that little
the most dev time went into that first. Spaceship.
That first 4 minutes of the game where you're essentially learning how you're allowed to interact with things required just an immense amount of work because we were trying to avoid the situation where
even things like remember. So for those of you who have played, at the very end of the spaceship at the beginning, you have a wrench, right? And you give that wrench back to your companion. The reason, like, we don't explain why. We just say, "Hold my wrench.
Hold my wrench, juice box."
So, and the reason we did that is because we knew that people wouldn't understand how to use the wrench because it wasn't like a normal weapon that you slap things with and whatever. We wanted to introduce that concept later. Right. So we actually took the thing back away from you so that we could introduce it.
So the wrench served as
casual content.
The wrench served as so first it was you can tap on things to pick them up. That's the packages, right? You tap to move. Avoid red stuff. That's bad, right? So that's the first part of the tutorial. And then it's introducing the idea of sometimes you need to have a thing in order to interact with the thing. Right. So that was where like you get the wrench and then you hit the electrified things, right? Give the wrench back to Juicebox, and we give the wrench back to you later with a new function, which is now you can fling it to stun enemies.
And they're actually two different wrenches, aren't they in code?
No, actually they're the same.
Are they same?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Coded the fuck out of those wrenches.
But yeah, so and a lot of people, there was actually a lot of controversy argument inside the studio about how to approach that initial landing sequence too. Because
do we give you a weapon?
Do we give you a weapon? This is the question. Because what we found is that everyone just gets straight up murdered by Wampets if they, like, as soon as they get off the ship, they just go, if they have a weapon, they just go get murdered by Wampets. And they're like, this game's not fun. And it's like, no, it's great. You just don't even know how to play it. And so we realized the problem was a teaching one. And so we had to take this risk, which if you watch streamers and stuff, their first time playing it, it's interesting because a lot of people, especially because the trailers are very over the top and stuff, and the opening sequences, explosions and running around, and then suddenly you're thrown on the ground. But
you still got your adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, but you actually can't fight anything. And so there's this interesting, everyone's like forced to chill out. And some people take 5 or 10 minutes to get through that first opening sequence before they get a weapon in their hand.
Well, and you have to build a piece of armor first too.
Yeah,
because we want to show you, we want you to build a piece of armor before you even can build a weapon, because we want it to be the case that you understand that you can protect yourself and buff up your health. Because when we handed people a sword first and no armor, which was the original way we did it, they would have 0 protection, low HP. They'd run in there and fight a Wump and get 1 shot. Then they'd go back and do it again and get 1 shot again. Right? Yeah, and they just thought that the problem was that they just were bad at the combat and not necessarily that they could build armor, right?
Mhm.
So we actually forced the player to build armor first.
Or even that they weren't like clicking fast enough, which is a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so the,
Maybe if
Because
I
you only click once.
Yeah. Maybe if I click a whole bunch, I'll swing faster.
yeah. So,
So every aspect of that first 10, 15 minutes
Oh
of
my God, that
gameplay
took
was just
forever.
painstakingly designed.
and it pretty much, I mean, it works pretty much.
But again, we didn't do that in Quadrupus, and that's why
Yep.
you feel like an idiot because you didn't know you could hold
That's
down
our
a button.
fault.
That's on us.
We feel like idiots now, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Terrible. All right, so next one comes from One Dead Saint, who provided a link to the game dev subreddit to an article that he said, just read this post about how this dev made between 3 to 20 times more profit on iOS versus Android. Is this a common occurrence, and what's your experience? Let's talk about this in two phases. One,
Let's
answer the question first.
So if it's a common occurrence.
Yeah, just address this exact point, and then talk about people on the internet real quick.
Okay. Is this a common occurrence? Maybe. Who knows?
Yep.
That's the answer.
Well, actually,
From what we understand,
yes, but it's because this is a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Right,
Which,
so-
which we'll get back to. But I want to say from our own experience.
no.
Well, it's not. It's just that there's nuance, guys. Come on.
yeah.
You
So
know?
Come on.
So the nuance is that all that actually matters is how visible you are in each of the stores,
Mhm.
right? That's the first. That's the first thing that matters as the
If
biggest.
people
impact.
can't see your game,
Then it doesn't fucking matter where
then-
you are.
whether you're on iTunes or on Google Play,
Right. It has seemed to have been the case for us that post launch, once you get past all the whatever visibility the platforms choose for you, they're actually not that different.
no, the storefronts have about the same level of sort of long tail
Right.
purchasing rates, at least for they did for Crashlands.
For Crashlands. We
Yeah,
can't
they're
say this
equivalent.
generally.
again,
because
we
who
have
knows?
no general data.
Right.
We only have
Yep.
crash.
This is a
Right.
this is a $5 mobile game, so keep that in
Right.
mind.
And what that does mean, because the market for Android is way bigger than the market on iOS, which, so if you think about it that way, then yes, the purchasing rates for Crashlands are way lower, but the actual income for the studio
Who cares?
is really similar, right? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we designed our entire launch with a really key premise or hypothesis, I guess, which was that when there's visibility, when people are aware that your game exists, you have to make sure they can get it at the same time.
Mhm.
Because if they can't, they're going to forget about it. People are not going to give a shit anymore. And even if it's a week later, because a launch week is literally a week, that's when people give a shit about your game and pay attention to it. So if you wait 2 weeks, if you launch in one platform, like just on iOS, wait 2 weeks to launch on Android or vice versa, then all the people who gave a shit, who like saw your game and wanted it, but it wasn't out
Back
yet.
when your game was in the news.
Yeah,
Like
a week
Super Mario
ago.
Run is on iOS right now, but
Right.
not on Android.
Right.
Yeah.
I tried to open it up on my Galaxy S5. I was like, oh shit, I guess I can't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a really good chance that I'm just not going
never
to give
gonna
a
play
shit
it.
by
Yeah,
the time
whatever.
it comes out. If it was out at the same time, I would have been on part of the hype train.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I would have bought it immediately. And this is what happens: is you basically fall off the hype train if you launch, if you do a staggered launch. So this is our hypothesis. We saw everybody else in the entire industry doing staggered launches.
It's
always
saying
iOS
this
first.
same shit.
Saying the same
Same
shit.
shit.
Doing it on iOS first and then on Android,
Mhm.
anytime between weeks to literally years later.
And they're like, see, the game came out at two completely different times.
And it did worse
Yeah,
on
and
Android.
it
did
is
worse on Android.
especially egregious. You go to GDC talks where
Mhm.
developers will give a postmortem of their game, and they'll go, "Here's a pie chart of my revenue." Right,
Yep.
and it's we launched on Steam, and then 2.5 years later we launched on iOS, and then 6 months later we launched on Android.
Also, we released on
and
Wii
that
U.
was 2 weeks ago. Here's a pie
Right.
chart of our revenue,
Right.
and it's like, look, Android didn't perform very well. Well,
Duh.
You kinda
What?
got- there's a-
And
there's
then
a
they
time
blame
difference.
pirates
There's a
for some
time
reason instead of the stupidity of their launch
so
plan.
you're comparing. Two
Yeah, so
completely
the long and
different
the
things.
short of it is that your feature placement on either one of those stores is what determines the difference between the two stores.
Yep.
That's the best way I'd put it, at least in our experience. So in other
in our
words,
experience.
if you launch like we did simultaneously on iOS and Android, and you get a feature on one of the stores but not the other one,
You'll do better
you'll
on
do
that
better
store.
on the store.
It actually is
Period.
what happened
Yeah.
with Quadrupus.
So it happened with Quadrupus, and then it happened in the other way with Crashlands. Crashlands got front page editor's choice with iTunes and did not get a high level of feature treatment on Google Play actually on launch week.
And it switched.
And we saw it. We saw it in the numbers coming out there.
Mhm.
And we also see it. We think that maybe the overall power of an iOS feature is bigger, but the truth is we haven't gotten a main banner
don't know.
feature on Google Play.
We can't say.
We never have. So,
So
who
we can't
knows?
compare. We don't know.
Yeah. So just be careful when you hear, because I think what bothers me about the specific post that was linked, I don't know if we're going to link to it, but
Yeah.
people don't need to see it.
Well, it'll be in the question when it's marked as answer.
Okay.
So,
So bear in mind that the issue that we have here is not that this person is recounting their experience, because in their experience, they did make 20 times on iOS what they did on Google Play.
Yeah.
But also in their experience, they launched their game 3 years later on Google Play.
Yep.
And we don't know what the difference was with their feature treatment. We don't know how they promoted it differently. There's so many variables in play.
There you can't identify a cause. The cause is, it could absolutely be the storefront. But there's so many other potential causes that's not even the best place to start.
So the best thing that you can say about this, or the only conclusion you can draw about this, is if you launch that game
at the time you launched
3 years ago on iOS and then recently on Google Play and get the same treatment that this person did as featuring, right? Then you'll see similar results, maybe, but maybe not. Right. So
and this is an important point
very
about
specific.
And this is, we learned this a very hard way with Talfight. To start with, which is that people talking about stuff on the internet, usually when it comes around one game or when it's basically not a larger scale look at what's going on in the industry, but rather like, this is my experience in a very particular way. Here's conclusions for you.
Here's what you should do.
This is why postmortems are dangerous.
Yes. Be very careful and ask a lot of questions about the context, because again, answering the question of context in this case, not a simultaneous launch, highly unlikely. So basically,
Hype Train probably died down after 3 years.
I would imagine.
One would think.
So there's all these circumstances in which you could easily say, ask the question that Adam talks about a lot, which is ask the question, why else would this be the case?
Yeah.
Beyond the thing that you're jumping to first, which is, these platforms are completely different and iOS is way better. Why else might it be the case?
Yeah. Right. And I think
in this circumstance,
maybe first,
what's the probability?
First, blame yourself.
That's right.
What did I do?
What did I do?
That could lead to this, right?
Yeah.
Instead of always relying on some external thing that is the source of your problem, instead of you just having a bad launch plan.
Yeah, and actually, your life will just be generally improved if you just repeat the mantra: you can't draw a conclusion from a sample size of one,
or even a few,
or even 30 sometimes.
You know what? You can't know anything.
Yeah.
You can't truly know anything. Life is pointless. The sun's going to explode in 5 billion years.
All right, next question comes from Flame it Kermit.
Flame what?
Flame it Kermit.
Just flame it.
Who says, last time you said that there are wormholes in the pockets of the Infinisuit leading to a Butterscotch
Bureau of Shipping.
Bureau of Shipping storage house. So if it wasn't for plot's sake, couldn't Flux just write a sign saying, send help, my coordinates are ... and stick it in her pocket?
I have an easy answer for this question. No, because nobody actually no sentient beings actually go into those.
Well, yeah, it's just robots. You know those little mustache robots that hang out on the BSSSS? Yeah. The Bureau of Shipping warehouse is just full of those.
Yeah, they're like ants. They can lift 20 times their weight. They're just moving packages around.
Well, to them, if you put it to them, honestly, use the little mustachioed ant people
to do what?
I don't know, stuff.
Yeah,
but they can't get out of that warehouse.
Well, there's some on the ship.
Who knows? Maybe there'll be a pet in Quadrupus Rampage too.
Ooh, hey, yeah, I love those little mustache robots.
Yeah. But I think if you think about them like a robot, maybe in an Amazon warehouse, which is those robots they aren't sort of psychologically analyzing the impact of the packages they're moving.
There's a note.
They'd see a note, they'd be like, hey, this wasn't on the manifest. I'm going to destroy this. Right?
They'd be like, I'm not allowed to read this. This would be illegal because this is somebody's mail.
Yeah. Because these robots are ethical.
Yeah, mail laws are important.
Yeah.
All right.
In other words, there isn't a real problem there.
Yeah.
This question comes from Mia Kitty, #1 Australian fan, who asks, hot dog spaghetti, which is hot dog sausage pieces skewered with spaghetti strands before being cooked. Yay or nay?
Yeah.
How many spaghetti strands? Is it just one? So you just have like a droopy.
That's
well, if you put too many, then you end up sort of with a shredded hot dog mess.
Almost like a hot dog, like a ring around just a stack of noodles.
I think a better question is, what about? I mean, because what you're basically doing is you're making spaghetti in hot dog water, right? I mean, that's basically
which is tastier water than regular water.
Yeah. So what about making hot dogs? Boiling hot dogs, and then making spaghetti.
Because now you've diluted all the hot dog juice and all the water.
This reminds me of when Adam used to make popcorn with bacon grease.
Yeah.
Instead of oil. Yeah. Because then you got bacon flavored popcorn.
It's great.
This is really good.
We need to use a lot more meat juice byproducts to sort of fuel our cooking.
I'm on this bacon juice train.
Yeah.
And then whatever you don't use for your popcorn, you can also use for mashed potatoes instead of butter.
Yeah. Ooh, you know what you could also do? You can get those huge noodles? They're kind of like penne.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
the big ones. Put hot dog through it like a bun.
Yeah, let's talk about what other what other foods can you like just shove together? I mean, it's like a taco. Right?
Yeah, it's like a hot dog taco noodle.
Because Adam made, this is a good one. So for my 18th birthday, you remember this?
For your 18th
My
birthday?
18th birthday.
That was like, what, 100 years
Adam
ago?
came home from college.
Was that when I made a turducken?
Made a goddamn turducken for my birthday. It's
Yeah.
a deboned, chicken,
A duck, and a turkey.
And then
It took me a long time.
and then
to
you
debone
put them
those
inside
things.
each other.
Well, no, first I brined them overnight because it was also in the winter. So I just
Yeah.
put a pot of brine with all those birds in it out just like in the snowbank overnight. And the next morning, brought
Because you
it
can't
in.
fit all those birds in the fridge or
No, you
whatever.
can't.
Yeah.
It was a big pot. I mean, it's a lot of birds.
How did
and,
you?
and then I had to
what pot
stitch them
did you
together.
have?
You also gotta be careful.
Mom had
of,
some big
you gotta be
pots.
careful of raccoon involvement in this kind of a scenario.
Yeah.
Get a lid on it.
Scavenging
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, there
bears
was,
and stuff.
I didn't really consider that at the time.
Don't they sleep or something? I don't know. There's probably some
They're
winter
probably hibernating.
thing. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know much about raccoons.
Nobody
but-
got into it, but yeah. But then so then you have all these floppy, boneless carcasses, right? and then you sew them together, like in sequence. So you just put one inside, sew it up, one another, sew it up, and then you stuff it full of all kinds of delicious stuff.
Then
like
you
rice
you
and
skewer it with noodles.
Would you say the hot dog? Yeah. Would you say the hot dog noodle skewer is sort of like the novice version of the turducken? You know, like if we want to put stuff inside stuff, let's go.
Yeah, you
It's
gotta
a
get
good
a
place
whole.
to start.
You gotta
Yeah.
get whole animals and put whole animals inside.
That's
it.
where we're.
I would actually recommend starting with little smoky
Yeah,
sausages.
so
Put those
smoky-
inside of penne.
Yeah. Well,
Put that inside of a
hot dog.
some
Put
hot
then
dog.
that inside of a hot dog. Put
well,
that
kind of like a
inside of bigger
cavatelli.
noodle.
Isn't there a cavatelli one? They're like a
Cavatelli.
big fat noodles, and then
Yeah.
and then put that inside of a broth. You know,
So it's like a lasagna, sort of, but it's like a tubular
it's
lasagna.
a tubular.
Yeah, you can also
lasagna.
probably
Yeah, man.
That's a good podcast
If- yeah, if
title.
you
We
could
should try to
just-
remember that.
if
so we
you
can
could
title
kind of
the
yeah, if you can kind
podcast.
of just keep layering meat noodle,
and
you know,
then
it's kind of like
and then
ravioli.
duck, and then use actual ravioli sheets, and then chicken, actual ravioli sheets,
Whoa.
turkey. Now you've got
That you just die, I think.
So, are any of you guys game for a winter project?
That would be incredible.
I don't know if I know how to debone a bird anymore.
Do you know how to debone a cavatelli?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Real hard.
That one I've practiced that one a lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that one I'm good at.
Takes
it
hours.
takes
Son,
more
top
finesse.
chef.
Yeah, you have to have a really special.
They got
knife
real
for it.
tiny noodle bones.
They do. Yeah.
You got to squeeze them out
All
of
right,
there.
next question comes from Lecky, who asks, with all the game jams that you do, have you ever considered hosting a jam for the Butterscotch community? Or does the St. Louis Game Jam give you enough jam for your jam jar?
We have actually
We
thought
talked about this a lot.
The thing is, we don't know if the Butterscotch community
Would participate.
would want to do that.
Interesting.
Just how
But
many
our,
game
but our
developers-
podcast listeners would be like the proper target.
That's
maybe.
true.
Probably.
Well, maybe it's quite because this is kind of a weird problem having a studio podcast that's also about game dev, where we also just make dumb jokes. Is there's a Venn
we don't.
diagram?
Yeah, we don't really know
Who's
why
this
you're
for?
here.
Who are you people?
What are you doing? Back to the Geki's question. What is
Yeah,
happening?
actually, you asked us. You asked us why we're here. A
What
better
are you-
question is, what are you
What do
doing?
you
here?
guys get out of this?
Maybe we should do a.
What is
Maybe we should put a
happening?
survey up or something.
Why do you listen to us?
Yeah.
We're just
And just
blathering
ask,
on.
Yeah, because the thing is, if it's like half game devs, then fuck yeah.
Well, shit. Even if there
Let's do
were,
it.
because we
It's
get
like
like, we get
1,000-ish.
like 800 to 1,000
Yeah.
listens. So even if like 10% of you or less, even
That's a good sized game jam.
that's a good sized game jam.
But is it a good jam gam?
That is a good question.
Wait, what? Okay, so
We might want to do this.
Let's pretend, Adam. I want you to step into the
How do we find out?
Step into the
Shoes.
boot shoes.
step into the boat shoes.
Uh-huh.
Step into the boat shoes.
So we've got a bunch of Easterners. in our-
podcast listener
Uh-huh.
for this show. Why are you here? Do
I don't
any
know.
of us know?
No.
No. Well, this is it. But I guess to go back to that question, among our discussions about why we're doing this, we ask ourselves this all the time. The question has always been like, how do we grow the podcast? Who is this for? And the answer that we always come up to is we don't know.
People just are listening for some reason.
But not only that, if we decide we think who it's for, or decide who we want it to be for, and start trying to design it for them, now it's just a circular self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So
And then
So
we're
we
leaving
just-
out everybody who was already here, maybe.
right. So we just decided.
We don't know.
Oh my God, that was horrible. we just decided. Sorry, I
disgusted.
erupted.
He's gonna vomit. I can't believe our demographical focus is so off.
I was just mimicking Coco temporarily. So we just decided, all right, let's just do what we want for this thing. And then if people like
People get on board, then
they'll-
fuck yeah.
Here's another thing that I forgot.
Hop on board whatever this train is.
Which is that when Crashlands launched and we were losing our damn minds for that week, which by the way, so the documentary is coming out soon. I got to watch it, and that like the transition from us looking like normal people to
the week after launch.
the week of and after launch, all of us just look like shit. I mean, it's just like
we get that just spaced off.
Oh my God,
haven't
you're
shaved in a week.
look terrible. So
Yep.
we found that doing the podcast, because it forced us, 'cause we're
It's
like, all right,
energizing.
there's like 700 people who want to hear something, maybe, or at least pay attention.
We don't know if they really want to, but they definitely
They
are
at least-
hearing it.
They at least download it.
Yeah. So
We don't know if anybody listens. There might be nobody listening.
it's just bots.
Just
Yeah,
robots.
Just
So,
upvote bots.
but we found that doing that podcast for that hour around launch week and
the
for
only
weeks after,
thing.
it actually was great for us to stay sane because we were in such a tizzy, putting stuff together and putting out fires and stuff, that it was nice to slow down a little bit.
Mhm.
Maybe there's
Take a step back and just talk
you know
about
what?
stuff.
Maybe it's not for maybe it's for us.
Oh my god.
Follow your dreams. All right.
We should, man, but we should probably
Hashtag
put
blast.
together some kind of a
Nah.
survey or something, just to find out, like not to act on it necessarily, but
Just as just curious.
But you mean I think we should put out a survey if people would want to do a game jam. That's what I wanna know.
yeah, we should
I
do
don't
that.
care. I don't care about why you people are listening as long as you're
Oh,
here.
I am curious about that. So,
It is
maybe
interesting.
tweet at us or something if you get on that
Yeah.
infernal platform.
Well, we should make it as easy as possible. Maybe we could add a little survey to the podcast page or something.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So now you can submit a question and also.
But what are we gonna
You
say?
can also submit.
Because like we fill in multiple choice. We're like, why are you here? And then we'll be like, we don't know.
It'll just be a long form essay. We'll just say there's a minimum of 10,000 words.
Yeah.
You just.
I'd like a short novel on your life experiences.
Ideally,
Led you to
a
this questionable
dissertation would
point
be
where you're
ideal.
listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we're not accredited, but I will give you a PhD. If
It's
you
worthless.
submit this question. It's not worth anything.
All right, next question comes from Degeki again. Who says, you brothers seem very close to each other. We're actually about, 3.5 feet away?
Easily.
Yeah.
We're 3.5 feet away from each other right now. Incorrect, Degeki.
That's pretty close though.
Depends.
Yeah. Depends on your scale.
Yeah. I've been
So.
close to people. All right, next question. Who's the oldest and why? This is probably the best question we've ever got. Who is the oldest and why?
And why?
So I feel like this sort of splits into like
It sort of
soul
goes
versus
two ways.
biological age.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Adam's just the oldest.
It depends. It also depends on how much your chemo aged you biologically.
That's true. Because
Did it age you because you're.
is oldest closest to death? Because it's probably me. But seriously, so
But seriously.
but for real, so
But really, that's
is
true.
that what the parameter?
Is oldest closest to death or furthest from
Birth.
life?
Birth, or is it?
Well, in that sense,
or
though,
is it
nobody,
most-
none of us knows who
Maybe
is
it's-
ever the oldest.
Maybe it's most bigoted, since that seems to be a general trend. Whose mindset is the most locked down?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who's
mental
who's
age.
the least flexible?
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, though. Physically,
I think
also.
probably me. I think I'm very inflexible in
Yeah.
all regards. I am a rock. I'm an anchor
How
just
does
weighing
one-
down the team.
So this is the fun question because it gets to the point where it's like, how do you measure age?
How do you?
Beyond?
I think you you
number.
take a person, right?
Okay, you chop them in half,
Exactly.
Chop-
and then you,
chop
and then
in
you
half?
count how many
Count
rings
the
they
rings.
have.
and then you put a cavatelli noodle.
Debone them, put a noodle on them.
So back together.
Then you compare the flavor
Mm-hmm.
of the two halves.
This is a well-aged human. It's got notes of cynicism,
Very
blockheadedness.
jaded. Yes.
It appears to not be able to learn new tricks either.
It depends on what causes human rings, though.
This human doesn't give
Yeah.
a fuck.
Is it seasons like it is with trees, or is it?
People do say though that as you get older, you don't give a fuck.
Well, that's true. I've
So-
been getting there. more
could
and
be how
more.
many fucks you give.
How many fucks you
If
have
you just
to
kind of
give.
if you just kind of
Yeah.
tally them up throughout the day.
Wait. Do you give fewer or just have fewer?
Probably both. I think you start the day with like 6.
Yeah.
You're like, I could care about that.
And then you walk outside without your pants on to get your mail, and you're like, whatever.
I've
This
already
is
used
not-
my 6 fucks.
I used them before breakfast. I'm out.
All right, so here's a question. Yes, do you ever play the eldest card in decision making? I think because we think of this age thing clearly along so many dimensions that I'm never like, hey, I'm probably closest to death. So actually, I did do that when it came to Crashlands. I'm the closest
That's
to death.
true.
So here's what I think we should do.
That is why Crashlands exists. It's
It
'cause
is.
Sam played the closest to death card.
I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's more of an urgency situation. As
Yeah,
opposed
usually-
to a wisdom thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, if we're having a really heated argument and I'm just like tired of listening to the nonsense, then I will just cut myself in half and be like, remember how many rings
Look
I
at
have?
my rings.
And then Sam said,
And then he'll
then
just wrap
they're
him.
cowering because we're like, oh my God, so many rings.
It looks like I'm cowering. I'm just picking up some cavatelli noodles.
Sam's just like, thank God I was hungry.
I'm so ready.
Let me debone this turkey.
How has the age difference between each of you affected your relationship with each other? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Because I've always been the youngest, obviously. It's kind of a function of how these things work.
Well, maybe until you got chemo, now you might be.
Well, actually, because there was a time where you didn't exist.
That's true.
And you weren't the youngest because you were dead.
You can't
and
divide
then
by
you
zero.
were born.
Was I dead?
I think you weren't
Or just
alive,
not alive.
which is pretty much.
What's the difference?
This question's getting real hard.
There was a point. Yeah, there was a point where you were dead, and then you became the youngest, and then you stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you might have become the oldest.
Yeah, because there was a
Closest
short
death
time where
proximity.
I was the youngest brother.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I took your spot. How do you feel about that?
That's cool.
There was a time where I didn't even have brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably
and
hard.
Adam was pretty mad about
That's
it
probably
for
the
about
hardest.
16 years. The fuck are these brothers doing?
Can't they see how many rings I have?
Taking all my noodles.
Yeah, I think we work together pretty well.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
3 out of 5 stars. Best team we've ever had.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from, let's jump a little bit. Ooh, just some dude who asks,
the username.
yep, who asks, why is Crash Lands cheaper on mobile than on PC? I don't know.
Why just
Because we're greedy
guys,
devs
come
and we
on.
want all your money.
Yeah.
How's that?
It's cheaper on mobile because
everything is.
people are less willing to pay for the same thing on that platform.
Yeah.
So,
It's pretty straightforward.
yeah,
really.
but this
economics
kind
problem.
of comes to a more interesting point, which is nothing in the universe has an absolute value. Things only have
except for temperature.
except for temperature. Things in the universe of economics do
Okay,
not
sorry,
have
yeah.
absolute value. Things only have relative value based on the context in which they are presented. So,
Things only have relative.
yeah,
value.
because the question isn't how much is a thing worth, it's how much is a thing worth to you right now in this moment. So if you see a good game on mobile and you see it for $5, you're like, the fuck is this overpriced nonsense? You see the same game for $15 on Steam, you're like, wow, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Pretty reasonable.
$15 is super reasonable.
Yeah, because it's right there next to some $60, $70 thing with $800 of DLC, and you're like, wow, 15? No problem.
yeah,
Right?
it's basically free.
It's basically free. Yeah, so it's just all about the context. You know, different markets are different. People have different ideas of those markets.
Yeah,
That's it.
and we wanted to make sure that we price things according to the markets they were in, because otherwise people wouldn't buy them.
Yep.
Yeah. And based on the sort of long tail revenue breakdown between the 3 platforms, it seems like we did okay in terms of that.
Yeah.
guess.
But again, we
Who
only have a
knows?
sample size of 1, so who knows?
Probably fucked it up completely.
We have
probably
no way
did.
of knowing. All we know is that we're able to fund the studio,
Yeah, it's fine.
which is all we needed.
Success.
So yeah,
Success was had. Maybe not.
maybe not as much as there
That's
could have
not-
been.
This is a podcast where we tell you that there is no such thing as truth, and you shouldn't listen to us or anyone.
and everything you've been told is a lie.
Yeah. Or is it?
Who knows?
You don't know. We don't know.
Nobody knows. This is a good question to end on, I think, from Jinx Soul, who asks, how many questions is too many? I'm going to say this many.
However many
We're
this
not going to
one
answer
is.
this one. This has been Coffee with Butterscotch. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening, even though we don't know why.
Yeah.
Go to podcast.bscotch.net and maybe tell us why you're doing this.
Also, tell your friends why you're here, because we
Yeah.
can't tell them.
And tell them with so much emotion and just love that they can't help but also
And then they
listen to
can't help but
podcasts.
unfriend you on Facebook and be like, ugh.
Yeah.
his views on podcasts are discerning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you are looking
disconcerting. Sorry.
If you are looking-
Yeah, that was actually a good thing.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something to be outraged about, to just yell at people about,
Oh, yeah,
over
get
the
angry at
holidays,
us.
Get
We'll
angry
be that.
about get angry about this podcast. Just tell
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
just how angry this podcast makes you.
Tell them how angry you are that this podcast isn't super popular.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I can't
Oh,
believe
that's a
it.
good thing to be outraged
It
about.
makes
this
no
Christmas
sense this
season.
holiday season why the Coffee with Butterscotch podcast isn't blowing up.
You mean this Christmas season? I'm angry at you now.
I was talking about the.
All right, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.